Auburn University. Another leadership teachable sort of moment comes to me from my son, my 9-year-old son. I've got a 12-year-old daughter that you mentioned, Hannah. She's an angel. Perfect angel. 12-year-old daughter, Hannah. I hope she's always that way. I've got a 7-year-old son, the other end of the spectrum, and he is as smart as a whip, a fine young man. He's going to, when he was born, my wife and I said, we're going to be okay as parents because he's going to turn out solid. My 9-year-old in the middle is the one that we struggle with. Wow. Matthew he's a case. Wonderful young man, driven with so much passion, has no filter. If he thinks it, he says it. No filter at all. You know people like that. You laugh like you know people like that. But the thing I've had to work with Matthew on, he is so competitive. He's hyper competitive about anything and everything. If it's school, if it's baseball, whatever it is. And so we've developed this mantra with Matthew. Practice, self-control, and patience. Those are the three things Matthew always has to work on. He has to realize it takes practice to be good. He has to have patience to learn to be good. And he has to maintain self-control because he struggles with it. He struggles with it. I share that with you to say, I think if we can discover our weaknesses and work on those weaknesses as leaders, we're always going to have them. We're always going to have the weakest link. And my son's weakest link is not passion. He's got passion galore. It's too much. But if he can have patience and self-control, keep the passion in there, but focus on the patience and the self-control, he'll get there. He'll get there. Throw the practice in too. 2 other quick stories, and then I'll move into reminding you of those 3 things I've mentioned. The 2 best examples of leadership are very, very personal examples. And I didn't realize it until just now, all my examples come from my family. I mentioned my brother. I mentioned my son. I'm going to talk with you about my father. My father is an example of leadership that's a different mold of leadership. My father started the family farm supply business that you mentioned 35 years ago in the small town of Greensburg, a very successful small town business. My dad's not a good delegator. He loves to have his hands on what's going on. We have a very successful family-owned farm supply store there in Greensburg. In a small town, it's hard to start and grow a business, but due to Dad's dedication, we've been able to do it. 35 plus years there, he brings his peanut butter sandwich and his sliced apple and his mason jar of iced tea every day to work. He's a good guy. He's A1. He is A1. He makes a living on those peanut butter sandwiches. Keeps a little bag of pretzels there, and he'll open his lunch, and he sets it over on a desk in the corner where he can watch the sales counter. He's got to be involved in everything that goes on. And we got 14 employees. It's a sizable business. He can't be involved in all of it, and he's learned over time how to let bits and pieces grow without his hands on them. But his passion and his dedication is so real. It's a model to me every day that hard work is still valued. As a leader, hard work is still valued, and that's very, very important. So that's the thought on my dad. The other one I'll mention to you, and this is my last example, is my wife. We'd mentioned Lynn earlier. My wife, Lynn, coaches and teaches. She's a high school volleyball coach. She has the passion that often, it's funny, my wife will come in. I've told you about Matthew, my 9-year-old. My wife will come in from a frustrating night at the park, and she'll say, "David, I don't know where he gets it from." I said, "Whoa, just look in the mirror for a second. It's you." But you can't, we discussed it, you can't say that to your wife. You've got to kind of work your way around it and say, you learn those things. My wife is so passionate. Loves teaching, loves coaching, especially loves coaching. And last year was one of the most difficult years in our lives together. She was diagnosed in March with breast cancer and had a tough battle, and the prognosis remains good. She not only battled the breast cancer and went through 3 surgeries in the process, but coached her volleyball team to victory in the regional tournament and on into the state tournament to compete against one of the tougher teams in the state. And so an example of leadership that's totally different than what I've described in my dad. My wife is in your face, not in a bad way, but she's in your face, she's pushing, she's prodding, she's yelling, she's coaching, she's screaming, all this passion. And she's devised her own leadership style that works. It works. It's humbling to watch. There are times you want to pull your hair out and say, slow down, lower your own stress level some. But she's so successful. And more important than being a great volleyball coach, she is such a great mentor to these young women. She is such a role model, a passionate role model for these young women. And so it was neat to witness that leadership as she worked through a very challenging year for her and for our family last year, and then to watch that team support her as she journeyed that journey. That was so difficult at times. Okay, let me wrap up with you again. As you go forward, those young people in this room that are already going to be recognized tonight for your leadership on campus and in community, you're going to be, as you grow and go, you're going to be devising your own style. No one can develop it for you. That's number one. You've got to develop your own formula. We can't write it on a board. Number two, you know now that Senator Givens thinks you need to create it from your life experiences. Life can mold you and make you in great ways if you'll let it. Don't give up your true core. Don't give up who you are. But let your life experiences mold you and make you some. And then always, number three, always be willing to adopt and revise, practice it again, and then adopt it, and revise it, and practice it again. It's never going to be perfect. It'll never be perfect. Thank you all very much for the opportunity to be here.